Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Northern Showcase. We look forward to spending some time with you. I'm Penny Olorenshaw, a former stage manager, now a Webflow developer in Trenton, Ontario, and I handle communications for No Code North. Co-founders Maggie Monceau and Jeremy Leroux aren't able to join us today, but since we've recently expanded our team, Patrick is jumping in.
Hey everyone, I'm Patrick Corsetti. I'm a web and Webflow developer based in Toronto with a focus on technical development. I'm a newer member of the No Code North organizing team, but you can always find me in our hangouts, geeking out over dev workflows and Webflow. Today, I'll be running the stream.
Our mission at No Code North is twofold. First, to build a community of Canadian Webflowers and no-code enthusiasts, and second, to showcase Canadian talent to the rest of the world. We host workshops, demos, and panel discussions on Fridays at noon Eastern in our Gather Lodge, and once a month we host the Northern Showcase here on our YouTube channel. And I see we have some folks joining us. Hey, Dale. And Yasaman, excellent. Yasaman recently moved to Canada from somewhere in the Middle East, and we're excited to have her with us. All right, excellent. So today we're going to dive into the world of branding, design, and Webflow with Jamie Windell. As a seasoned consultant, Jamie helps businesses refine their brand identity and enhance customer experiences through services like brand strategy, website design, and customer journey mapping. Leveraging a network of top creative freelancers, he delivers tailored, high-quality design solutions. With a career spanning logistics, project management, and design, Jamie founded Kula, a Webflow development service earning design awards and podcast features along the way. Join us as we explore his innovative approach to branding and design. Help us welcome Jamie to the Northern Showcase. Hey, Jamie.
Hey, Penny. Hey, Patrick. Good and you?
Oh, good.
Good.
Excellent.
I like it. Super cool. Thanks for the intro.
Yeah, no problem.
Yeah.
You have lots for us to work with. There was lots of information for us to gather information.
My career journey's been as you can see, quite a vast range of different things, which I'm sure we'll dive into and chat about. But yeah.
Yeah, we will, for sure. And you and I first met at Chicago Webflow Conference in 2023.
That's right.
You were, what I loved is just like right now, you were just so like excited to meet us and, to meet more Canadians, because I think, it's so easy to just kind of be in your own little silo.
Totally. Yeah, I was quite surprised to bump into a few Canadians at the Webflow Conf for sure. Like, I was quite shocked. I was like, oh, nice. And then everyone got chatting and I saw the plaid and I was like, hey, Canadian.
we gotta start sending out like a memo next, like whenever there's like big Webflow events, like day 1 or day 2, one of those days has to be like Canadian plaid day, like planned in advance. Everybody just wears plaid.
Yeah, it's
super
great.
Cool.
It's
cool.
good.
Nice.
All right. So I will, so Patrick's going to jump on out. What I will say to folks is if you have any questions, you can post them into the chat on YouTube, and we will ask them either at an appropriate time during the interview or during our Q&A at the end. So, Jamie, I couldn't find you. Okay, so far you haven't answered my Instagram request, so I wasn't able to find any embarrassing photos.
Okay.
But to start off, what's one thing that most people don't know about you, but you wish that they did?
That's quite a question for the start. Love it. One thing that I wish they did.
You wish they did know.
They wish they did know.
Favorite food or?
I would say probably a lot of people probably don't know that I'm a Christian. So so I go to church every Sunday with my wife and my little one. And I think a lot of people might not know that about me from the offset, which I'm super proud of. So yeah, I think my faith is quite important to me and my family. So yeah, I would say it's probably that one.
All
Mhm.
right, good. I have a feeling that we'll get to that again a little bit later on. All right.
Good.
So, what I loved, I was looking at your personal website, and so you describe yourself as a go-getter and a doer, an
Mhm.
organizer and a connector, a luminary,
Mhm.
a creative problem solver, a chaos coordinator. But the one I
Mhm.
loved the most was chief of getting things done.
Mhm.
So you've been able to build Kula from the ground up in a fairly short time. What is the most important thing that helps you get things done?
Oh, I would say, I mean, persistence is probably one of them. I would
Mhm.
say, I think the biggest thing that I probably pride myself on is I'm not really a procrastinator. So,
Mm,
if there's, I've mentored a lot of creatives around the world, and I've had lots of conversations with freelancers, and I think the number one thing that often holds them back is procrastination. I think they dwell on the ideas that they have, and then they sit with it for a little too long. Whereas I
mhm,
think I'm a task, like I love getting things done and moving them off my plate and ticking them off and moving on to the next one, whether it's an idea or it's an item that we have to get done. I think that's been one of my superpowers, is just being able to take everything, break it down, and then just get it going. And a lot of my clients have, seen that through working with us. Is just making sure we just get over the line, and move on, and then iterate and move from there. But I think that would be probably one of the biggest things.
all
Yeah.
right, good. Well, as
Mhm.
a longtime procrastinator, I'm darn jealous because that is a tough one to get over.
It is a tough one. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, I totally
yeah,
understand. Yeah.
yeah. So now folks who didn't know you before would
Mhm.
recognize that you do not have a Canadian accent.
No.
You're originally from South Africa, from Johannesburg. Tell us, because I'm sure most people have no idea what Johannesburg is like or what South Africa is like. Tell us what it's like to live there or to grow up there.
Oh man. So yeah, so I spent basically most of my whole life in South Africa. I'm still proudly South African. So for the first 30 years, I grew up there, grew up in Johannesburg, which is the main city, one of the main cities. And yeah, I mean, I love South Africa. I love the people, the culture. I would say it's very similar to Canada. I was also quite shocked when I came here, the diversity. I
Mm,
didn't think it was going to be as diverse,
right.
coming here, but definitely coming from South Africa, we have the diversity, which is really nice. And then I would say South Africans are very proud people. They wear their heart on their sleeves. So, as a
Mm,
nation, there's obviously can be a lot of crime and corruption, and which everyone talks about and knows. But if you live there, people often say that, even through all the bad and some of the not so nice things, people do come together. They still link arms, and they still gather around and come together, which I love.
right.
And there's just that hospitality when you get there. Even my wife, who's Canadian, and she came on holiday there and we spent quite a bit of time exploring all over South Africa. And even she said, she's like, man, the people and just like the culture, it's just, there's like
Mm,
this warm welcome, side to South Africans that just invite you in. And then
right.
obviously the landscape. I mean, we just have like everything on our doorsteps, right
Right.
there. Just the terrain and the vegetation is just so different, and it's a
Mm,
different type of beauty. But yeah, I mean, growing up in Johannesburg was fun. City boy, did lots of all the different things. Skateboarding, BMXing, and messing around in the streets and running around, and it was all just fun and play for
right.
the most part.
Right.
And so had a great group of friends, and yeah, we just kind of try to live life to the fullest, really.
Right.
Yeah, so yeah,
Cool.
a little bit
It
on
sounds
South Africa.
Yeah, it sounds
Yeah.
wonderful. I was watching a video and somebody was talking about you can do a skateboard tour of the city. So if you're a skateboarder and
So
you
that's
go
pretty
there, you
cool.
can,
Didn't know
somebody
that.
will take you around into different parts of the city. Yeah, it's pretty cool.
Super cool. Super
Yeah.
cool.
So what brought you to Canada and why the
Mhm.
Vancouver area? Because what I didn't say before is you're in the Vancouver area. Um,
Yeah, yeah. So I actually live in Chilliwack now, so it's
mhm.
an hour east from
Yep.
Vancouver. But when I came, I actually, my aunt and my uncle relocated to North Van, about 20 years ago. And
Okay.
so that's my mom's sister. And so they came out to South Africa for holiday. We got chatting and we're like, oh, I'd love to see my cousins and family again. So I decided, hey, why don't I come over? And that was in 2018, December. Came for a month-long holiday, first time seeing snow, which was really cool. And like, yeah, it was just what a surreal experience. And getting to snowboard and all that fun stuff. I mean, the Canadians would have laughed at me for sure. But yeah, so came on holiday and just fell in love, to be honest, with the mountains, the people, the cleanliness, just the way everything was run, and just it was I just could see it's such a cool city, especially Vancouver. I mean, obviously you've been, and it's a pretty city.
It is. It's
And
beautiful.
so I got my British passport, so I was like, well, let me apply for a visa, see if I get accepted. Went back home, started the process, and I got accepted quite quickly. And then I was like, okay, well, let me pack up, sell everything. I had like a little agency that I was running, doing also websites, but on WordPress, funny enough. And decided to leave that with a friend of mine, and then just leave everything, and then came over with literally just a backpack and clothes. And so I stayed with my aunt and uncle for quite a while, for probably the first year and a half, after I landed here, and just hit the ground running.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's interesting because usually those sort of big relocations are because you've already met somebody and you're in love. And I was
Yeah.
waiting for you to say so. And
No.
while I was in Canada that first month, I met this amazing
No,
woman. And
yeah, no. My wife
wow.
came into the picture later on. So it was about 6, 7 months after arriving, we actually met online. And she lives in Chilliwack, so hence why I'm in Chilliwack. So
Ah, that's why.
we were commuting. I didn't realize the distance, but it's actually quite far. It's like, what's it, like 80 kilometers?
Yeah.
And so we were driving kind of back and forth in the beginning. And then we just really hit it off really well. And we got married, we got engaged, and then got married, and now we have a little one, and we actually have our second little one on the way. So
Yay.
my life just kind of, since coming to Canada, kind of just did a full 180. To be honest, I didn't anticipate it. It's just how it's unfolded, but
Yep.
all good things. Yeah.
Ah, that sounds wonderful. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's great.
Yeah.
So having grown up in South Africa, where we know the weather is much warmer, and you had not seen snow before, what do
See,
you think of the weather now? And at
yeah,
least you've got Vancouver, and not here, where
totally.
in the east, where we're buried in snow right now.
Yeah, I don't know. I haven't been out east yet, and my wife's from Saskatchewan, so she's like kind of giggling a little bit. She's like, "Oh, wait till you go east Canada, then you'll experience real cold." But you can obviously see I'm wearing a jersey right now, so typical South African.
Right.
I do love the sun. I do miss it. Even the winters can be a little bit of a drag sometimes, and it's it rains weeks on end, and yeah, it's just and dark and gloomy, and so but there's what I do love about BC is that kind of you got the 4 different seasons. So you got a proper winter, you got a proper hot summer, which I was quite surprised, and then you've got your spring and your autumn, which is really cool. South Africa kind of got hot and hot. Where you got hot, you got the winters. The winters can get cold, but I would say it's more just warm weather almost all year round.
Right.
And so I'm still climatizing, to answer your question. I think definitely handle the cold a lot better. I think when I first arrived, I was like, what is this? It was a big shocker for sure. Yeah.
Yeah, I think a lot of us are still acclimatizing,
Yeah.
even though we've been here our entire lives. All
Yeah.
right,
I
so
can
let's
imagine.
talk about that really varied work background that you have.
Hmm.
So, I think you started out in logistics, or basically, what was your first job, and how did that lead to where you are now?
Yeah, I'll give you a very quick flyover, like just the first 10 years of my working career, because I've worked in lots of different positions. But I started out, I didn't know what I wanted to study after school, so I went straight into the working world, like a lot of people do. I joined a kind of a tech company. It's quite interesting. They actually imported a Canadian-made product called Smartboards, interactive whiteboards. And so I started out packing boxes. That was the first job, basically managing the warehouse as a logistics coordinator. And at this company, it was quite a small team, but they grew, and we were the sole distributors for 13 countries or 15 countries in Africa. So it's pretty cool.
Wow.
Such a cool team. learned so much, loved the entrepreneurial side, and I just kind of sponged off everyone there, and learned a lot. That company was called Vastratech, and I was there for 6 years, and I grew really well with the team. I tried lots of different positions, went to internal sales, outbound sales. I did a little bit of, then I was in operations. Then I moved into more procurement and logistics, and then moved back to operations, and then kind of worked my way up. And towards the end of that particular career, I got this urge, or this entrepreneurial bug, if you want to call it, to start my own thing. And so at that time I was 25, I think 26. And I went to directors. I said, look, I want to start my own business. They weren't too happy at first, but they were obviously proud, and but they didn't want to let me go because I was quite a core part of the team. So I resigned, and then I started my first business called Think Africa Solutions, and we did logistics for other small companies. So basically shipping packages all around the world, because that's what I knew. So I just used my experience, started a business with what I knew, which is imports and exports and managing warehouses. To be honest, I had no idea what I was doing. For the first year, I just, chilled in pajamas, ate pizza, went, to gym with buddies in the morning, took it very lackadaisy. And, later towards the year, I just didn't have the confidence to sell, to go knock on doors and sell myself. I would say sales was probably my weak point or weakness. Because I'm a back end guy. So, I like the logistics and the back end and the operations and streamlining things. So a year later, I ran out of money, and I was like, okay, well, I got to find it, go back into the working world. So moving into the next career, then I joined really, really cool, where my mom still works, an interior design agency called DP Group, or Design Partnership. And that's when I fell in love with the creative side. So that's how that kind of almost has led me into Kula, because that's where I started watching designers, looking at the interior designers, seeing what they were doing. I kind of loved what they're doing. They design like big brands like Starbucks and Nando's and all the big, that's what they did. So it was really cool to kind of, and I was more of a project coordinator there, and I got to see just so many cool things and learn so many cool things. So on the creative side. And then during that time, I started watching YouTube videos on learning Adobe Illustrator and designing logos and flyers and business cards. So self-taught. And then I started learning, then I dabbled into WordPress, started building off templates and themes, learning HTML. And then I started just building out websites. And then all of a sudden, I started building for friends and family in the evenings. And my boss at the time at DP was like, he could kind of see that I was dabbling in a little bit of that, and I ended up doing their website as well. And then I actually got headhunted to come back to the Smartboard company for a year, helped him set up another business unit, and I worked there for a little bit and helped him get it set up. And then I actually, after that, that was probably when I was around 28, 29, I decided, okay, well, let me do my own thing again. So I left full time and then started a little branding agency, helping startups with business cards, logo design, flyers. To be honest, looking back, I didn't really know what I was doing. You just kind of wing it as a freelancer, and you just go with the flow. So I didn't really have, I wouldn't say I had like the true designer experience or background. I didn't study it. This was all just things I kind of just learned from people and learn online, really. So YouTube has been a big part of my learning growth, funny enough, and learning online. But during that time, I did a bunch of other businesses. I was I started ideas, ended ideas. So, I mean, I had a gym clothing brand that I ended up selling to a buddy that I started, and some people might remember it. I was a personal trainer. I was training people in the evenings and selling gym supplements. I did so many different little business adventures, as I call them, but none of them really stuck. Maybe because I didn't stick it through, or I think I kind of jumped from idea to idea looking back, and maybe if I stuck it out, I probably would have maybe done a little bit better. But it was all good learning. And I think in your 20s, I know Gary Vee talks about this a lot, is like kind of taste as much as you possibly can. And so I think if you're in your 20s and you're not sure what you want to do or what your career or future looks like, I would say just go and try as many different things and see what you gravitate towards. And design and creativity was one of them for me. I would say in high school, I used to love drawing logos and drawing and sketching. And so there was always that little bit of creativity in me,
Okay.
but I would say not full blown. Like my brother, he can draw really well. And my wife, she's an artist. And so I'm not that type of creative, but there is a side of me that really enjoys making things and creating things. So I just decided to double in all on that industry. And so that's kind of the career path up until I was almost 30. And then when I came to Canada, I actually, to fast forward, then within the first 2 weeks of arriving, I actually got a job at a creative agency downtown in Vancouver in Gastown called Skyrocket Digital. So that for me was a huge learning curve for me as well, because that's a true agency that and compared to what I've learned and what I know from South Africa was very different. So I think just working in first world, if you want to call it, and within that agency space, just my learning was huge, like exponential. And so I learned everything from brand strategy all the way through to SEO and marketing. I was an account strategist, so I got to play middleman between client and production team. And so I got to sit with copywriters and true UX UI designers and brand strategists, and I just got to learn from everyone. And I was just my mind was just, sponging everything. And so I was there for a year and a half, and then unfortunately COVID hit. And then, as you know, a lot of businesses really struggled during that time. And so unfortunately, I got let go along with a bunch of other employees at Skyrocket just due to finances in that time. But I kind of saw it as a blessing, because I said to my fiance at the time, I was like, hey, well, I've started many businesses before. Why didn't I just do my own thing? So with her support, I then launched Kula literally almost straight away. I came up with the name, bounced off some family and friends. I got a couple of really good mentors in the beginning that I think was one of my biggest success. Sorry if I'm jumping ahead, but that was one of my biggest things in the beginning, was finding I had some really good coaches and mentors and people like my dad and my uncle and Nate, brother-in-law. I had some really good mentors around me that really helped me formulate the business in the beginning. And then I'll go in more into that, but then it kind of just spiraled from there. But that's kind of the career path.
Wow.
In a nutshell.
Yeah. So now you're here, you're settled. How did you get those first few clients? What was?
Yeah, that was interesting. Yeah, because I like I said, I would say sales is probably not actually my biggest thing. So I wasn't like huge. I enjoy talking with people and I enjoy networking, and I would say I'm an extrovert by nature, but the sales side was just this mental block for me. And so in the beginning, I do what I think most people do, is you chat to friends and family and be like, hey, I've started this business. We're doing, I actually, then we learned Webflow when I was at the agency. So I was like, Webflow is actually going to be a great tool for me because it's no code. I can build really quickly. And so the first couple of websites I actually did myself in Webflow. I didn't subcontract it out, or I didn't bring on external designers or developers in the beginning. I kind of just did it myself right in the beginning. And yeah, I think the first couple of clients, if I look back, were mainly all friends of friends and friends of family that were like, hey, Jamie, you should go chat with him if you're looking for a website. And I think it was just the timing. With COVID, I think a lot of people were leaving their 9-to-5 jobs to start their own thing. And also businesses were reevaluating their online presence. And so I think that evoked like a lot. And so then I just hit the market at the right time, the right place. And everyone needed websites and branding. So it just kind of grew from there. It was slow in the beginning, slow-ish. I'll say I probably got like maybe two clients a month. And then it kind of grew from there.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. So one of your fairly early clients was what you described as a big migration for a local nonprofit. So you've only been going and that was sort of within just a few months of starting. How did you find the courage to go after something that, I don't know how big that was, but that sounds like it was bigger than what you'd done.
Yeah, it was bigger than what I've done. The first website, to give you an idea, I think I charged it was for a coach, and I think I charged like $800 for the whole website, like not a lot at all. But I guess that's how everyone starts. And so I just needed to build up. For Kula, I need to build up a very quick case studies and portfolio, just to showcase the work. And then I got before the Hungry for Life one, I landed a semi, I wouldn't say big one, but it was pretty big, design, the full work. So we did the full brand identity strategy, copywriting, design, development in Webflow. And that was for 49th Living, which is a property brokerage here in Chilliwack. So that was pretty cool. And that kind of set the tone. I was like, oh, I can do this. And so then I realized I need to bring other people in. And so that's when I started looking at my network and some of people that I knew that were in the UX UI Webflow space, and brought them on board. And that's when I started to almost play more of that, call it CEO role or director role, where then I was playing the middleman for the clients. And then I was then basically managing the team for the clients. So they didn't have to, that was one of the biggest pain points actually that I solved for a lot of clients, was a lot of our clients, A, didn't have the time to go online and find talent and resources. And also B, they don't know where to look. And then I would say C is, how do they know to trust them and who they are? And so they didn't want to go on Fiverr or Upwork and go hire multiple freelancers and then manage them. A lot of these clients had no idea where to even start. So I just had that in me. And I think my experience from our previous companies I worked with the project coordination and project management side, then obviously that's where a lot of my strengths were. So naturally, I was just very good at that. I was good at vetting freelancers and subcontractors, getting them in, building good relationships with them, and then feeding work to them, and then playing that middleman between client and subcontractor team. So it's coming back to your question for Hungry for Life. My sister-in-law works there, and so again, it was more through a friend introduction. But that was one of the biggest ones that I was tackling. It was a 4-month project, and it was like right in the beginning. And I was a little bit nervous in the beginning because obviously I didn't have a proven process just yet. I kind of knew all the steps that I needed to take, but I kind of, to be honest, I just kind of figured it out. I said yes, and we kind of just figured it out along the way. And I think that's for a lot of freelancers, I'm sure, and creative business owners around the world, I'm sure they're in a similar boat where oftentimes they don't know maybe all the steps to get there, and sometimes they don't know what the outcome is going to be, but they would just say yes anyway, and they're going to give it their all and try. And that's what I did, and it worked out great. It was a pretty big migration. I mean, they have, oh man, I'll probably say more than 30, maybe even more than 40 CMS collections. We migrated like over 800 pieces of content.
Wow.
We're talking like tons. That whole site is fully CMS driven. We did a fully interactive map with some custom code and using Mapbox, which you'll see on their website. And that was early on, and we did like a bunch of really cool stuff, but that was from Drupal. They were on Drupal. So, and they just couldn't update the Drupal site anymore. They were getting frustrated. You needed a Drupal developer. And so we migrated all that content across, which was huge. That's why it was a 4-month project. But yeah, that was a really big one. Then I thought, and once the project was done, I was like, wow, okay, so that's maybe set some context for some of the audience here, because they might like this. But in the beginning, I thought I was going to work with startups, because that's what I was doing in South Africa. So I thought, okay, I'll position Kula to help startups with their branding and with their websites. And so in the beginning, I started working with a couple of startups, but then I quickly realized when I was done with Hungry for Life, I was like, oh, well, Hungry for Life, they've been around for 20 years. They're more of like an existing business or organization that need to refresh. So I thought, hang on. So if I'm working with a startup that's going to pay me $1,000, and now I'm working with, let's say, Hungry for Life, it's quite a chunk of money. And if I had to compare the two, the process is the same for both, and the outcome is the same, but the level, and I actually found I was more hand-holding, and there was actually more work with the startup than there was with the existing business. So that was a mental shift for me. I was like, okay, well, why am I trying to target all the startups when they don't really have the budgets? They're also very high demanding, or they have a lot of, they need a lot of hand-holding because the business is new. And so I was like, but I could just work with existing businesses who know who they are. They know how they want to show up in the world, and they just need something modern and professional that resonates with their audience. How can I help them do that? And so that was the shift for me. So then Kula shifted more from startup. We still helped a couple of startups during that time, but I would say it was very few. Where we specialized was brand refreshes, complete brand refreshes. So we then became very, very good at and known for small businesses who have an outdated brand that maybe they've been using for 5 to 7 years. They had an outdated website made on WordPress or Drupal or Joomla, and it was hard-coded or complex. We were very, very good at taking them and then transforming them into something new, into something modern, into something that resonates with their audience, and built on no-code platforms like Webflow. We became a Webflow professional partner it was like early, I think 2020, 2021. So it's been a few years. And then, so we doubled down on that platform. We didn't offer development on any other platform. And then and that was the big shift for us. And I feel like from HFL and then onwards, that just grew. So our pricing grew with every project until, last year, obviously not to sound like brag or anything, but just to set the context of where we've come in 5 years. Now it'll be our 5th year of running Kula. Our first website was $800, and last year we did just over $110,000 for a website refresh. So that's quite the jump, right? Like from where we started to just in 4 years. And so I feel like, and that's with someone who doesn't fully come from a full design background. Sure, I've worked at agencies and I have the agency experience, but a lot of it really was just figuring out as you go, as you work along and seeing what works, what doesn't work. And I would just say like applied focus, like really, laser focus on the tasks that do matter, I think is what was really important for me. But yeah.
Cool. And so now how many
long answer to your HFL question.
That's okay. That's all right. How many people do you have on your team now? I'm assuming that you're still doing a lot of contractors, or do you have people who work with you?
It's a bit of a mix now. So full time, we actually hired a full time staff member, Sean, last year, which has been great and such a huge help on the definitely on the project management side. He's also a really talented photographer and videographer. So we now can offer that as part of one of our services, which we're super excited about. And so we've been doing a lot of more photography and drone videography for our clients for their websites. And we hired a full-time QA manager. We felt like QA is such a big part of the process that gets overlooked. And so we actually have someone now who can do full. We did do all the QA before, and a lot of our devs do their own QA, but having someone that's actually dedicated and that's all they do, where they use Browser Stack and they test, different devices and browsers and all that stuff, it's just been so instrumental to the quality of work that we want to push out. And then the rest of the team, well, recently with all of our Webflow maintenance signups that we got over the last year, that was a separate business model that we started. We could chat about that. And I pulled that back into Kula. It was a sub brand, and it actually did very well. It got picked up by Webflow as well, and we did some amazing work. And so that was Flow and Grow, which is a maintenance business, and then we pulled it back into Kula. So that one, then I had to beef up the subcontract team. So subcontractors, we're sitting on now, I would say, true like that I've worked with for the last 5 years that we use over and over and over. I would say close to 30 subcontractors. So quite the team. Quite the team. And I would say like half of that is almost Webflow developers. And then other subcontractors that we have on our roster beyond that I probably have about another 50 that we vetted. We haven't really used as much. Just because I prefer to use people that I know and trust and that we build really good relationships with. Not to say that we wouldn't use some of them in the future as things grow and scale, but we do have access to a really robust subcontractor base. Yeah.
Right. Wow. That's pretty impressive, I gotta say.
Thank you.
So when you take on a new client, what's your process? Like you're essentially doing brand refreshes and then everything that comes out of that. What is your process? How do you bring them in? First of all, how do you get them? But then how do you bring them in and take them through that process?
Yeah. So I think we were chatting before the call. We haven't really done a lot of marketing to date, and maybe that's also a little bit a bad part on our side. We should be definitely doubling down on some more marketing initiatives, but we've posted very reactively on LinkedIn. Over the years, we now just have an Instagram account for our photography and drone videography, but that's very new. But we haven't done really any marketing to date. All of our leads, funny enough, come through SEO. So our SEO, that was one thing that I doubled down on early on in the process. Is I did a lot of blogging in the beginning, and just like a lot of started learning keyword research and meta tiles and meta descriptions, and learning that process, and with Google Search Console and the whole work. So a lot of that we do as part of our client website builds, but that's stuff that I had to learn on my own. I got mentored by a couple of SEO specialists, and they helped me with understand the landscape and the key things to look out for, which was super cool. And so I started applying that early on in the game, and over the years, our SEO has done really, really well. Some of our blogs were ranking top of Google. Believe it or not, some of our clients actually have found us by Googling certain keywords. So one of our clients out of Calgary, I asked him hey, I was curious, how did you find us? And he said, no, he Googled logo plus Webflow, and we were one of the ones that showed up, and he booked a call on our website, and he became that was a really decent project and decent client, a complete brand refresh. So it just shows you the power that it does work. And I try and explain that to a lot of our clients, that if a website should never remain static. It should never be something that you just design, it's pretty, and then you put it up there in the world, and then it's okay, bye, and then you leave it. I feel a lot of business, or even startups, do that, and then maybe they come back to it 3 years later or 5 years later. I feel strongly you should just continue just adding to it, whether it's new keywords or switching out meta tiles and descriptions, or adding new content, case studies, blogs, podcasts, whatever that might look like. I feel like that's really important to help with the growth. So yeah, a lot of our leads actually come through Google organically, and book a call straight through our website. And then I would say about the other 40%, 50% has been word of mouth referral. Right. So that's been, especially here in Chilliwack, it kind of spread a little bit. We've worked with quite a lot of businesses and nonprofits here in Chilliwack, which is super cool, and across BC. We've helped a couple of clients in Kelowna. We did a really cool solar energy company out of Kelowna, and 2D and 3D home design business as well. So yeah, it definitely does spread. And then to come back to your process, so they would book a call with us, understand the full scope. So normally it's just a conversation really to understand their pain points, what they're struggling with, what are they looking to do? Is there anything else that we catch as part of that conversation that we could potentially help them with? And then based on their needs, sometimes I've had calls where they don't need a website, and I've say, you know what, it sounds to me like this isn't, maybe the right fit. You don't actually need a website for your type of business. You would easily get away with just doubling down on social media or a different platform. So we don't always just accept every single project that comes through. Our closing ratio was super high over last year and the year before. So I'm not sure if that was just an indicator maybe on price, or maybe, maybe we need to increase our prices a little bit. I'm not sure, but we were quite competitive. Or I would say we're not the cheapest and we're not the most expensive. We're kind of in the middle. Right. And so, but we managed to close a lot of projects through our sales process. And then typically after booking the call, within 2 to 3 days, we would send them a formal proposal. And that was just really just a nicely designed proposal template, and happy to share with some individuals if they want to see what that looks like. But our proposals did, for some reason, I think helped us close a lot of business, the way it was structured. And then after that, then we typically start with a discovery kickoff call, which is with our brand strategist, sometimes with our copywriter included, myself, or the project managers at Kula. And then we just take a deep dive into unpack everything that we can about them and their business. And then typically we would take that away, and the biggest thing that we start with on most projects is the brand strategy work. So that's really diving deep into their competitors, their industry, their consumers, and we unpack basically sometimes 50 to 70 slides of data that we bring back and report back to them. And that normally sets the tone or the foundation for their brand moving forward. So basically helping them position their business. So reposition their business in the market. So what's their value proposition statement? What's their vision, their mission? What's their values? And then what's their proof pillar points, like what's their claim to fame in the market. We help them unpack all of that, which is called a brand on a page. It's really cool. And then often clients, they resonate with it a lot because it's all in here for most of the business owners, but getting it out actually and into paper and then backed by research is just huge. And then we use that as the cornerstone to then set the tone for all the creative elements that follow. So then we move through the phases pretty quickly. So then we move into full brand identity design, which is your full logo suite pack, 2 to 3 weeks. And then we do copywriting, wireframing, and then we move into UX UI design. So the copywriter will wireframe with me, do all the copy and the flow for the website, and then we pass it over to the UX UI designer, who then applies the visual identity that we've set out in the beginning, and then we design it beautifully. And then from there, we treat that as a stage gate, move it into Webflow, start building. Then we do all the QA, all the SEO, full go live checklist, and then we launch. And then typically we wave the clients goodbye. That's how we've been operating most of the time. So we do that whole process, a full complete brand refresh, depending on how big the website is. I mean, on average, we're averaging like 4 to 8 weeks, sometimes 8 to 10 weeks on average. So we move fast because I found a proven process that allows us to work very agile. And so we phase those phases. Some of them overlap. So an example, like while the brand identity or graphic designer is designing the brand identity, then we'll have our copywriter wireframing and doing the copy in tandem based on the strategy. And then so we kind of overlap some of those. But that's typically the process from start to finish.
Right. Yeah. Right. Do your Webflow developers sort of use any particular framework? Do they have systems set up that make development faster than if they were sort of going bit by bit?
There is a few. We start with, we're actually going to launch it soon. We'll launch our own clonable on Webflow. So if people want to go and clone it, but it's basically an amalgamation of the Fin suite, which is what a lot of Webflow developers uses, that framework for the naming convention and all that. We've kind of formulated our own a little bit, very similar to Fin suite, but then slightly different in certain ways. So we start typically with that style guide, but then we have like a bunch of almost like checklist items that we want to work through first. So getting just the initial structure set up, we clone that particular style guide, and then we start as the starting point, get that all set up in the back end of Webflow. And then typically we would start with the style guide first, map that according to what our UX UI design has done in Figma, because we typically have a full-blown style guide designed in Figma. And so we build that first, and then I would say the homepage is normally the first go-to with the menu, nav, footer, all of that, build that all out. Is normally we treat that as kind of like the first initial, again, stage gate. And then we typically kind of pause there. We try and get it fully done with tablet mobile, and then that's what we send over to the client, and we almost treat that as like, okay, how's this looking? How's this flowing? Kind of get that almost like stamp of approval, so that then we can move into the rest of the pages. Because the rest of the page is really, your homepage is kind of the window to the world. It's the shop front, if you want to call it. But typically the rest of your pages are standard in nature. Like we do a lot of our websites are like informational websites, that we don't do e-commerce at Kula. We don't do product-based websites. We focus purely on like boring informational websites. So think of like, first, we've worked with a lot of big First Nation communities here cool. Really, really cool to learn their culture, and just everything has been super cool. And part of their websites, a lot of it's just really informational driven. But how do you find a way to make sure that information is easily digestible? It flows well on the website. They can find what they're looking for easily. They can download all their documents for community members, that type of thing. And so the rest of the pages typically are just plug and play. Because it all falls from the visual identity of the homepage. So and that would be typically the process there.
Right.
Yeah.
Now, do you ever have a situation where somebody doesn't, or they push back a little bit on the design ideas or the logo ideas, and how do you deal with that?
Oh yeah, for sure. I would say on the brand identity design side, because we've done a lot of research, we've been very fortunate to normally nail the brand identity design first time around, it's very, very seldom that we actually get a client who's like, oh, this was a complete miss, redo the logo and the brand complete. That's been very rare. We've had maybe 1 or 2 instances where they wanted to tweak the symbol or the colors slightly, but for the most part, we've actually had almost like a 95, 98% hit ratio first time around presentation on the logo design. So that just, again, falls back on the brand strategy, because you're doing the strategy part first. Makes a huge difference. Design wise in Figma, we do operate like very collaboratively. So we actually invite the client into the Figma and they actually leave comments for us in Figma. So we invite them into that story early on, and basically we try to gather their feedback during that process. And again, it's very agile. So we just go through the pages, page by page, invite them in, share the prototype links, let them experience it, the design and the feel, and then they leave their team would leave their comments. I would say where it gets very difficult for most of our clients are solo entrepreneurs. So that's easy, right? You're dealing with the decision maker from the outset. So making decisions in Figma typically then is very quick. But with some of our clients where there's many chefs in the kitchen, they have a whole marketing team, and you have the CEO who's got a different opinion to the marketing manager, that sometimes can get a little bit tricky to navigate. And so how we typically would handle that is we would often try and see if there's a way. Oftentimes it will involve more of an internal discussion. So some clients would say, hey, can you go take that area, debate it and hash it out internally, and then come back to us with a collective answer that we could then help you figure out the design or the flow for that particular section or update. I often find that they don't talk to each other on their side. So so they're each sitting in their own silos, or a lot of them work remotely. So especially when everyone's collaborating in the Figma or in the Google Doc or wherever they're collaborating in, or Reloom or one of the components, they often then I find that they haven't really spoken to each other just yet about that. So you would just see comments flying back and forth. And I would say then sometimes you might just have to, like what they say, like stop the bus and then get them all on a call, chat through it, and then get everyone aligned on their side and then in agreement, and then okay, right, this sounds good, this is a good plan, and then take that, edit it, reiterate, and then move on to the next. I would say yeah.
So now you do have a number of Webflow maintenance packages that you offer, and one of the things that I liked was that as opposed to many subscription services that are out there where it's like, here, pay a whole lot of money and we'll do lots of things for you if you want them, but it's like for a small business that isn't reasonable. But you have one where it's just like one request per month. Do you find that a lot of businesses and is that like well suited to a lot of your clients?
It is for the smaller ones. We have a lot of like past cooler clients where they have like a simple let's say a 5-page website. And so they have, home, about, maybe a blog CMS and a contact page or something like that. And sometimes they don't want to be going in every month into Webflow editor mode and update the CMS. So they just can submit a ticket through their dashboard. We actually custom design our own dashboard, which is super cool. They submit a ticket through dashboard, goes into our system, and then we go and do the update within typically we do them in 24, 48 hours. Turn it back to them with the staging link. They just approve it, we publish it, and then we do all the SEO stuff as well. So we check meta tags, meta descriptions, we index the site, index the page on Google Search Console, make sure all of that stuff is done for every update. But yeah, some of our clients, they just have one ticket to submit in that month. So some of them will just be like, hey, I just got a blog to upload, or I'd love to add this new testimonial or this new career. Or I've got this little section that I want to update, or change the button color across the site. Very small items like that. That plan is really perfect for that individual, super cost effective. And we do find a lot of them use it every month. And then if you want to jump up to the next plan, which is more the unlimited, our plans are still super competitive. In the Webflow maintenance space, on average, you could pay like $2,000 to $5,000 on average per month for unlimited tickets. I think ours is under 1,000. And so we have clients that you can submit as many tickets as you want. They all go into queue. We only work on one active task at a time, but still we're able to action, like, give you an idea, like we've actioned like sometimes 40 to 80 hours easy a month on maintenance updates, if not more, per client. So that unlimited works out really nicely. We had a model where we were charging by hours. So you buy like bundles, like 5 hours, 10 hours, 30 hours. But I found the hours just was limiting. So they would get to the 10 hours, they would run out of time. Then we'd have to force them to buy more time. And it just felt very like, I just didn't like that approach. So now that it's unlimited, literally they can submit anything within obviously within reason, like they're all basic updates. If you want to add a whole new page, then you have to upgrade your plan to the higher one. But we could do a lot with the unlimited one.
Yeah, I can imagine. Yeah, no, and one of the things that often frustrates me about, especially so many different SaaS products and things like that, it's like, I don't want to use your fancy tool every month and pay 40 or 50, whatever, for some of the SaaS ones, right? It's like, I will use it once in a while. I really wish that, more companies had, just buy a few credits or something.
Totally.
Just strikes me as ridiculous.
Totally.
So let me see. I know we are getting a little close to time here. So, now that you've got, I know you mentioned that you have another baby on the way. But now that Kula's established, you've got a great team. Are you finding balance, and have you always been able to find balance in between work and life, or is that something you're sort of working on?
It's a tough one. I don't know how other business owners do it, but I think running and owning a business, it's tough because there is some sacrifice, unfortunately. So there is some times where I might be working late, or that I have to jump in those evenings to do a bunch of like urgent website fixes for a go live or something like that. And so unfortunately, it just comes with the territory, and then kind of your wife or your missus or husband will take take the back seat in that scenario. So there's a little bit of give and take, but on the same time, in the same token, there's also this business also give me a little bit of freedom as well. So some days, like I can, like today after this, I'm actually taking our little one, and we're just going to go play games and run around and spend the day having fun. So there's that. So there's that kind of like flexibility. Whereas if I was working, I remember working at previous companies and jobs, like that flexibility is not always there. I can't just get up and go when I want and do what I want. Whereas some days, like I go play golf for a whole day. That could be during the week, and then I'll just catch up the emails at a later day or later time, or catch up the work at a later time. So I do feel like there's a little bit of freedom that comes with it, which is really great. But the balance part is very hard, like especially with little ones. Yeah, it's just it's how do you gotta you gotta learn to like switch off the laptop, try and like put the phone in a different room. If I don't put the phone in a different room, then people are pinging me on WhatsApp, and subcontractors are texting me, and then you go down this rabbit hole, and then you one email and you check another email. And so to be honest, like I still struggle with that. I think I'm not perfect when it comes to that stuff. It's so hard to like switch off completely and unwind. But like during holiday, that's why sometimes during the year as a family, we often do like a 2-week or 3-week break. I feel like that's the time where you can kind of just switch off from technology completely and just be like super present with your family and your little ones. But being present is really hard as a business owner. I don't know if anyone's got it like 100% perfect or right, because it's just businesses. There's so many demanding factors, right? You got your clients looking at you, you got your suppliers, your team, your subcontractors, everyone's coming to you. So it is a bit tough at times, but it's something you just have to practice, I guess, and get better at.
Yeah. All right. So we're getting close to the end here. Of just a quick, tell us a little bit about one other thing that was on your website is about giving back, and that obviously is something that's very important to you. And one of the things that you still do is work with Hungry for Life, that first big migration project that you just tell us more about your involvement with them or with charity work and why it's important to you.
Yeah, that's a great question. I think when I started Kula, So Kula is a Zulu word from South Africa that means to grow, thrive, or increase. And so I'm very passionate about helping small business owners grow and thrive. But I think more so, I had this vision of, having a business that almost acts as a vehicle for positive change. So I wanted it to be that when clients work with us, not only are we helping them, we're helping the business owners really in a positive way by helping them create a brand that they can be proud of, which is super cool. But indirectly, it would be cool to kind of pay that forward. So I thought, isn't there a way that every client that could work with us, we could use Cool as a vehicle to then spark positive change somewhere else in the world? So whether that's one year we planted trees on their behalf, or partnered with there's a really cool kids program here called Afternoon Adventures, and helping them and with the kids. And then there's Hungry for Life, who do like amazing stuff. They have partners all around the world, and they on a huge mission to fight global poverty and needless suffering. And obviously, coming from South Africa, I've been exposed to it my whole life, seen it, been there.
Right.
So I think that also comes from that background, just the need to kind of help more people that are suffering or are in need. So I always wanted to use Kula as like a vehicle that we could then, our clients could feel part of that. So when they buy from us, not only are we impacting their brand, but we also taking some of their funds, and then we're going to go do really cool stuff and help other people as well at the same time. So it's almost like a win-win, really. So that's kind of this paid forward motion. This year we definitely want to get more involved in more community focused work, actually ourselves, rolling up our sleeves, and instead of always just giving money. I think sometimes it's great to actually get out in the field and do some of that work yourself. So you'll probably, if you follow us on social, you'll see some of the stuff that we will have planned for this year. But that's
Excellent.
It's part of it.
Cool. All right. So I'm going to bring Patrick back in.
Cool. Hey, Patrick.
And
Hey,
Patrick, you've got any questions for Jamie?
I have a whole list of questions, but I was sitting there from the first question you asked, I was like, damn, okay, I got a list going, but I'm gonna have to email you about this after the fact. But
good.
I think one prominent question, it might be a little bit short to answer. Do your personal business cards say Chief of Getting Things Done as your title?
They don't, but they should. Maybe I should probably put that on. I should put that on the business card. That's actually a great idea. Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah.
Patrick consulting on brand strategy for Jamie.
Yeah, there we go.
Yeah, there we go.
That's what you need. You need the developer consulting on brand strategy.
For sure. Oh man.
The brand strategy for my website, by the way, was to make it a little bit difficult to use.
Okay.
That's
the route you took. Yeah. Love it.
Yeah, exactly.
Love it.
Okay, well, I think we need to wrap things up. Jamie, you've got somewhere else you need to get to. So, Patrick, do you want to wrap us up here?
Yes, absolutely. Okay, so first, Jamie, we can find you online at Kula and JamieWindell.com, Kula.studio and JamieWindell.com.
That's it.
Love it. Yeah. Okay, perfect. And then if you want to go see some drone footage, we got to find your Instagram there too, and maybe drop that in the YouTube description.
I should give you the link. There's some really cool stuff that we're doing with a couple of big First Nation communities here. We've done some really cool drone work and photography work, so you definitely got to go check it out.
Amazing. Cool. Okay.
Yeah.
Can't wait for this. All right, so this brings us to the end of our 23rd Northern Showcase. This is also our 4th year of building our community online now. We're planning lots of great events for the rest of 2025. So we'd like to thank you all for joining us and remind you to like this video and subscribe to our YouTube channel.
And join us in the No Code North Lodge and in person for some upcoming events. Next Tuesday in Toronto, we'll be having No Code drinks, and led by one of our other organizers, Andy Claremont from Glide. Next Friday, February 28th, we'll be having a tax workshop that time of year with Frank Sadiq Azawi of MMS Accounting Corporation. And on March 7th, we're going to have a demonstration of Client First with Harshit Agrawal, who knows Client First better than anybody else, I'm sure, from FinSuite. And we'll be announcing some more events for March and beyond very shortly.
Amazing. And cool. Be sure to visit our website at nocodenorth.com and sign up for our mailing list to receive all the latest updates and notifications of our upcoming events. You can follow us on Twitter, LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, and Blue Sky. And make sure to join us on Fridays in the lodge, our cool gather space. Our lodge hangouts are open to everyone as well. So make sure to jump in there and join the discussion.
Excellent.
Cool.
And
Nice.
until next time, and thank you very much, Jamie, for joining
Thanks,
us.
Benny. Yeah, thanks,
Thank you
Patrick.
very
It's
much,
really
Jamie.
cool. Thank you. It's been super fun. Yeah, thanks,
Excellent.
guys. I appreciate it.
Great.
Absolutely.
It was good to get to know you better. All right. So until next time, bye.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.